everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm G, this time with another Warframe video, also talking about the Helmith system. Now, I'm going to talk to you about the 5 most changed abilities. Now, these are probably most changed because they are from the most used Warframes or by Warframes where people looked and said, man, this is wrong, I'm going to change this immediately. It might be one of the two, it might be both. I'm just using for reference, the chart that the devs showed a couple of dev streams back where they showed what was the most change, what were the building most change. I'm going to talk about what they are and how I would change them. So let's get into it. First of all, in number 5 comes Excalibur's Radial Javelin. Now, as we all know, Radial Javelin is that thing sticks to the sword on the ground and the arrows fly out and hit enemies. It's very cool, if you're beginning Warframe. But it has several problems. First of all, they remove punch through from the arrows, which means you can't hit every enemy in that area. You have to hit just enemies that are in line of sight. You don't hit anything that's behind an obstacle or behind another enemy or anything like that. The arrows just find whatever is in front of them and they hit. It didn't used to be like that. I think it used to have punch through, a little bit of punch through. They removed it. Now, for the helmet system, what I would do is I would put punch through back. That's it. That'll be the easiest way to do. Would be to put punch through back. If that's not possible, they can just make the arrows fall from the sky. You stick the sword on the ground, and the arrows come directly from above, so they hit enemies behind obstacles. But as long as they are in that area, you still get the result that you want. Also, because the augment isn't really that bad, you get 10% of melee damage increase for 16 seconds for each enemy that you hit, which means that if you have a lot of enemies, you can do a lot of damage. I don't know if this is capped. It doesn't say in wiki. I didn't find that it was capped. So yeah, imagine, especially in Daimos or in Infested Planet where you have a lot of enemies really close to you. If you use this, it's really powerful. The problem is, of course, people change it because they're using Excalibur. They don't see many use for it because it has to be on line of sight. So yeah, I would put the area damage being coming from above, or maybe flying from the sword and going around obstacles, a little bit like you see with Oberon's Smite or Nick's Psychic Bolts. Those things fly around a little bit before they hit the enemy, so they have some kind of a tracking mode. They can go around certain obstacles, maybe not all of them. But yeah, the problem is this, and especially in Warframe in the beginning levels, in the first levels where you're always in corridors, in small spaces with lots of elements, yeah, it can be really bothersome. If you're open world, maybe it works a little bit better, but for the Helmith purpose, I would just put them falling from the sky, and that's it. And that would track every enemy on that area that you designated. Number 4, Chroma Spectral Scream. Now, I used to have a big problem with this ability because you couldn't do anything. Then they added the use of melee, which is a great idea. It's really good. The problem is, you already have Vex Aura, and Vex Aura already affects the range a little bit of your melee, so it's not really doing more than the Spectral Scream is not doing more than the Vex Aura, because you're just using melee, you're at close range, so you might as well activate Vex Aura and not the Spectral Stream. It does work well in synergizing with the rest of the abilities, so you're throwing fire, you're hitting, and you're moving around with all the abilities, but it doesn't add anything more. I mean, this could be an ability that falls in the first category, which is it's just the one, it's just the weak ones, or it could be it's just too weak. It doesn't synergize with your weapon. You don't do more damage with your weapon if you're already modded it for fire, which would be nice. Or it could be at least synergized, maybe you're doing some type of damage like corrosive and you put electric on your melee, and so you do more corrosive damage. I think that'll be a better way to synergize, especially with the Helmith ability, because as a Helmith ability, it's just flamethrower, and it's capped. It also the damage is capped. It doesn't increase by the amount of enemies that it affects or anything like that. So in changing it, I would put it like an Eidolon, like Sentinel that could be following you around. Like Garuda has that blood orb on top of it. I would put it to be like an orb like that. That way you can use any weapon that you want. You can maybe synergize a little bit with what elements that you have in those weapons, and I think that'll work a lot better. Also, the augment afterburn doesn't really do anything. I mean, it does provide a little bit of a boost in damage because you accumulate damage in that ball, in that fireball or ice ball that you throw in at the end. But it is also capped. And worst of all, it doesn't even have like a big effect. You know, it's not like a big ball. I mean, the Arcoplasma seems to have more of an effect, at least a visual effect, than that thing. So yeah, I think they should change it to what I said. I mean, be a sentinel or some kind of orb that will be following you around. It could synergize with all your weapons because you know this is an Helmith ability, so you don't want to use just melee. You want your character to use all all the arsenal at its disposal. And I would make Afterburn have a little bit more of a, you know, more of a visual effect and being bigger. You know, the more damage you accumulate, the bigger that shot would be. Yeah, I think that would work a lot better. So in third position, we now have Necro's Soul Punch. The problem I have with Soul Punch is that it is a punch. It doesn't really connect with the theme of Necros, which is death. You know, punching around is more like Atlas stuff. So what I would do is do some kind of soul stealing. You know, it would just pull the soul out of the enemy, and it would turn it into something. Now it could turn him into a clone, but then they would put him really close to Inaros maybe. Still, it would be cool to pull the enemy out. Also, you already have shadows as his fourth. So yeah, that would probably be maybe 1 and 4th. So you need to have some kind of a synergy, some kind of buff that would give to him. I don't know what that would be. I think it would be cool if he did some kind of life steal. Maybe he could steal maybe 30% of enemy's life, and that would be permanent. You know, you could steal his life and steal from enemies 30% of his life, and that would come directly to you. It'll be something to increase his survivability, but it also worked very well with Despoil, which is like the thing people use the most, and it would give him like a little bit more of a gimmick that he could sustain himself more. Also, I spoke on the video before where Terrify could maybe do 50%, steal 50% of enemy's life around them. This would not come to him. This would just be a debuff. But even if it wasn't 50, it was like 30. If he did like 30 with Terrify and then 30 with Soul Punch, it'll be a really great great reduction for the enemies. Just remember that on Terrify I said it was something that it'll be reduced for a period of time. This one won't be. This will be a real life steal. We could do one punch and take out 30, then another punch, get more 30, and maybe it would be probably it had to be capped, or else it'll be just too powerful. But I think there will be something that will work better. Also, it would synergize with his augment a little bit better, because the augment, what the augment does is, if an ally is down and you do Soul Punch, it gives back the life. It gives back 30% of health to your ally. It gives 30% health to your ally. So, in that contrast, it will be like this. So, if you do Soul Punch, you steal 30%. If you use the augment, you can give an ally 30%. So, it will have this equilibrium between the two. It will obviously have to be some kind of cap. I don't know if you should, like I said, if you could just punch the enemy as many times as you want until you deplete all of his life. I think that'll be the way to go. But in some bosses and some enemies, it'll probably have to be capped, or else it'll just be too powerful. You just punch, 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 and steal all this life back. That said, I think it'll be pretty cool if it had that. So, also I would change the animation. If instead of being that punch, it would be like this pull of enemy vitality. It could also maybe slow them down a little bit. You know, something that was in my previous video. I talked about Terrify being like working a little bit like stasis with the augment. This could be a little bit more like that, where he steals life and the enemy automatically gets a reduction in his speed. That could also be something. It'll be something more than just, you know, punching, which doesn't really affect the enemy that badly, and it doesn't buff you in any shape or form. So that's why people just remove it. And you know, if you want to punch, you go with Atlas. And number 2, Inaros Sandstorm. Now, I don't play a lot with Inaros, I'll be honest. I'm just building it up again so I can put him in the Helmith system. But from what I read and from what I've played with him, because I have played with him in the past, Sandstorm suffers from the same problem as Spectral Scream. It's an ability where you're just standing there. doing damage. I mean, it's a little bit like Revenant's Dance Macabre, but Dance Macabre is really powerful. And although Sandstorm does slash procs, it has the same problem. You're just standing there, kicking enemies in the teeth, and you're not really interacting. So the augment does have a little bit of synergy with your melee weapon, which provides also 50% status of your melee weapon to the enemies affected. But it's not enough. Again, like Spectral Stream, all you need to do is to make it mobile. Maybe just use the weapon. I mean, Spectral Stream could be maybe just use the secondary. This could be using the melee, because the augment already synergizes with the melee. So you create this sandstorm around you, like this shield of sand around you that does slash, and you can still also slash enemies with your melee. So not to have that range, that long range that could probably modify it for it. So yeah, that'll be just the quick fix I would do. I will not get into the details of his entire kit because he's already, as we all know, he's already overpowerful. Now in number one we get Mess's Ballistic Battery. Now, it's probably about number one because many people now use Mesa. Mesa is like damage dealing frame number one, top notch nuke frame. But of course, Ballistic Battery does not really complete our set for several reasons. First of all, because it's a one shot. The ability does is you gather up damage buff with your ability, and then you release it, and that shot has more damage. But it's one shot, and if this was a game where you had like sometimes a mini boss appearing, or a tougher opponent appearing, one tough opponent appearing, it'll be useful. You collect damage from the grunts, from the little guys, and then you use your one shot on him. The problem is that the game doesn't work like that. As we all know, it's a super spamming game where you have hordes and hordes of enemies, and you have to take them out as fast as you can. So the ability doesn't really present itself as very useful when you have one shot to do something. Maybe you can have maybe a bombard or maybe an ancient healer or something like that, and you can use it on him. But in general, you don't really use it. You just use the power of your regular weapons. The second problem is that the damage is capped. It's capped at 1600, and 1600 right now, especially on Steel Path, is very low. It's not good enough to use. So I would think they should change the ability. Well, it's quite simple. First of all, it should have a timer. It shouldn't be like something that you buff and then get just one shot. It should be something that you activate, and then for a period of time you can do damage. So it could be modified for duration. The second thing it should have a percentage of damage. For all the damage that you give, once you activate it, it could be maybe, I don't know, dish out 80% of the damage for a period of time. It could even have a cooldown, because now even Loki's invisibility has a small cooldown. It's just, I think it's like 2 or 3 seconds, but it has it. This will be his first. It'll be kind of bad to have a cooldown, but if it was that powerful, that you gather up damage buff until it builds up to your max, which is like 80% your normal, or maybe 180%. I mean, I don't know, some kind of percentage that will buff your damage, and then you use it for a little small time. That'll be more profitable and more in synergy with the rest of our abilities. Of course, this is getting to the realm of Chroma, where Chroma gathers up a lot of damage, but Chroma is like, his cap is like 300% or something like that, and you can extend it for like a minute. This will be, of course, smaller. This is a first ability, so it'll be a little bit smaller, but you could synergize it with our fourth ability, which would be really good. Even if it was like more like an increase in maybe 100% will be the max, maybe 80% will be the max, and then you can synergize it with our fourth ability, which dishes out damage in a room, which is already pretty high, but at least it would give you a little bit of that super feeling. I think that will work better. Like I said, I don't use all of the frames here. I've played with Excalibur at the beginning. I use Chroma and Necros a lot, but I don't play that well with that much with Mesa and Inaros. So these are just ideas I'm putting out there. If you have other ideas, better ideas, different ideas, if you think these are good or bad, just write it out in the comment section. I think there's simple tricks that you can no, I don't mean tricks. There's simple solutions to these Helmith abilities. They can just be changed for the helmet system, then just for that. They could start there and then maybe rework a little bit their entire kits. Like I said, I don't know the entire kits of Mesa and Inaros, so I won't get into that. Chroma, Necros, and Excalibur are already pretty cool with what they have. It's just that little thing that people go and go like, I don't like this. I like this very much. I just don't like this one, and they change it. So yeah, these are just my thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. And as always, have a great game, guys.